Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Diamond Discussion. I am your host, Demetrius Woods, and welcome to 2026. Today I've got a jam-packed show with you, full of lessons. So if you're ready to learn, let's get it started. Happy New Year, everybody. Hey, listen, this week's show is not about new resolutions. It is about your standards, okay? So I'm putting my coaching hat on today. We're asking questions, we're provoking thought, and we're sharing lessons, right? That is the sole focus of what we got going on here. So I hope you're ready for that. And listen, let me just tell you something, man. As I've been able to coach players throughout the years, um, this time of year, as you all know, right? It's preseason time, or maybe in the travel ball world, you're between seasons or whatever. You've got winter workouts, you've got other things that you're working on right now, and just because the calendar flipped, that does not mean the game has changed. Okay, so just make sure that you understand what that looks like for you. Don't set all these gaudy New Year's resolutions, and then by January 21st or by Dr. King Day, they're gone, right? You need to set some attainable focal point goals. If you're a goal setting type person, then do that. But here's the thing, man. I want us to really dial it in on what your standard looks like. And when I think about a new year, it doesn't necessarily mean a new identity. Okay. It just means potentially for some of you, you got to upgrade your standards. Okay, flip that calendar, understand what needs to happen. All right. And at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, right, what are you really bringing into 2026? Okay. And if you've taken the time to do that already, pat yourself on the back. If you haven't, no big deal. It's January 1. For some of you, maybe you're watching this, later into the month or even the year for that matter. But whatever the date may be when you're seeing this show, it could happen today, right? Your new standards or your upgraded standards, if you will, can happen. They can start today. Just take the time and do that. What are those habits though that you loved about 2025? I tell you what, one of my habits that I loved about myself, from a coaching standpoint, is that I was just for the lack of a better term, a no BS focused, from a coaching standpoint this year. The first half of the year, I was able to be on the field and coach my girls, and the bittersweet ending of that, I was able to wrap up our season back in July with my team back down from Georgia, and then the second half of the year, I was really focused on my online coaching with some players that I work with around the country, baseball and softball, right? But it was a no BS mentality from me as a coach, right? I'm not providing any fluff for them. Everything that I gave them, it was very, very intentional, which is actually, our focus as a family this year is to remain intentional about our time and being present in the moment, right? So you'll probably hear me use that word a lot this year for my own personal sake, right? But in terms of the way that I coach, it was no BS, and I want to maintain that habit going into 2026. Another question is, what absolutely cannot come with you, all right, this year? Because I know for all of us, okay, and I say us, not just you, not just me, us, right? There are some things that we have in 2025 from last year that maybe it doesn't need to, stay on the train with us into 2026. Okay, and so you gotta be able to identify what that is. And once you've identified it, you've got to understand, well, what do I need to do to make sure that it does not come with me? What about my game needs to progress so that I'm able to upgrade my level of play, upgrade my IQ. All facets of the game can begin to have that uptick that we want to have, right? So ask yourself those two questions, all right? What am I bringing with me? What cannot come with me, right? Those are two big questions that you can start with this January and really make sure that you maximize this preseason time, because ultimately once you ask those questions, you can just get in the lab and just grind. You know what I mean? You can grind and grind and grind and just focus on the things that you want to keep, and make sure that you've left behind the things that are truly not going to be able to stick around. Okay. Now, last thing I got to say before the break here, and we're taking a very quick one here, is very simple. All right. If you are not focused on something, then everything falls by the wayside. All right. So you can't just hope for something to happen. You got to be intentional. You got to be laser focused on what that is, because ultimately, hope is not a training plan, right? That doesn't give you anything of substance in the literal sense, right? So at the end of the day, you got to make sure that you go out and you work hard and that you make sure you work smart. And we'll talk about maybe the difference between working hard and working smart on the other side of the break here in just a few. Be right back, guys. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome right back here to the show. And I want to talk about a little bit about 2025, at least in the sense of we want to kind of maybe not do a recap, but look back without living there, right? Because we're not trying to live in history, right? We are today. Today is 2026. It is here. It is alive and well. We made it, right? And however you want to think about that, but we are here in the present. However, there are opportunities to look backwards and go, where did I miss, and where did I hit? Okay, and so I would say one of the things that you can think about is, maybe the biggest lesson that, about the game that you learned this year, right? What did the game teach you this year? I know for me, as a player and playing in a men's league over the summer here in Nashville, I learned very quickly that a preseason matters, right? I'll tell the story next week on the show with a good friend of mine, Kyle Fry. He'll be on the show, and what I'll share on that before next week is this: when you have an opportunity to prepare and go into a season and you take full advantage of it, there's a 100% chance that you'll be more ready than if you don't have an off season, right? Or a preseason setting. And so for me as a player, having a preseason, being able to use that, and that's what I'm going to take into 2026 for me as a player, in this men's league. I think as a coach this past year, the biggest lesson I learned was to go with my gut, right? Being able to, put aside the stats at times, put aside what do we call the analytics these days, right? And be okay going with our gut. I did that well, and that was a lesson learned this year more than any other year, honestly, as a coach. So think about that in a big picture sense. All right. Another one is one thing you do over if you could. All right. What's something, and maybe I guess you could call it a regret. Some of us do genuinely have regrets about, the previous year, and some of us may not. For me, I don't really think there's anything about the game necessarily that I would do over, now that I think about it in a deeper sense. However, there are some things maybe that we could tweak, right? So maybe you don't need a full do-over, but maybe you need a little bit of an adjustment, on some certain things. I know personally my swing, all right, as I have gotten back into the game as a player as well. Like, I want to make sure that I fine tune my swing so that it is more consistent, because I was very proud of my decision making, in terms of what I swung at. That was good, right? So pitch selection most of the time was where it needed to be. However, mechanically speaking, my swing wasn't, what I would call ideal, right? At the top of my game type thing. So what does that look like for you? Okay. And then one more thing here is just that thought process. I want to talk about this just briefly, of comfort versus development. Okay. And one thing I know for a lot of us is that we can, just kind of get nice and comfy, cozy on the couch from Thanksgiving all the way through the new year, and take off that 5.5 to 6 week stretch and virtually do absolutely nothing. And don't get me wrong, breaks are imperative, to our success. However, what I always say to people is that there are ways to use the break that don't require physical, all right, physical strain on your body, right? It's okay to, watch film this time of year. If you're not out and it may be cold or whatever, the conditions may not be favorable for you to be out and about. So watch film, study the game, take opportunities to learn, and maybe you're in the weight room or maybe you're doing some yoga or what have you, right? So again, what does that look like? Don't get comfortable. Okay. Don't get comfortable. Still be willing to progress and develop your game into something that you can be proud of. All right. So that's a big piece. All right. So think about that. A couple other things here that I want to kind of go through, and I guess in more of a this or that format. And as I just mentioned before the break, it's in terms of our training. One of them is, do I train smarter or do I train harder? Right? I get that question a lot, and I've gotten a lot from my online guys, specifically the guys. And here's the thing: that's different for everybody. All right. I don't really think that's a this or that truly. Like you have to be all in here, and 0% on the other. I think there's a way to be smart and go harder at the same time. And because some of you need to just simply get in the gym and go, right? Get in the gym and grind it out. But some of us, we really need to, level up our IQ and be a little bit more strategic about how we're training, because I think that can be a hindrance for some of us, right? If we're going 7 days a week, we're putting in the work and we're going hard and we feel good about that. That's one thing. But if we're going 7 days a week, we're putting the work, going hard, and still feel like something is off, then that means we're possibly not being smart about the use of our time. Okay. And in that sense, it is smart to kind of go back to the drawing board and say, hey, listen, how can I be a little better with my time so that I can maximize the hours each week that I'm spending? So I hope that kind of makes sense for you on that. The other one is, especially this time of year, a lot of people talk about it, especially on the resolution side of things. With the new year, is motivation versus discipline, right? Which one should I lean more on? And this is another one where I feel like, um, you know, some people just need both. And what I would say to that is, we kind of have heard the quote of, motivation is what gets you started, discipline is what keeps you going. And I believe that wholeheartedly. However, what I would say though on that is sometimes you need a kick in the rear end. And maybe that's you kicking yourself in the rear end, looking yourself in the mirror and doing that. Or maybe it's a teammate, maybe it's a coach to kind of give you that boost of motivation. And every now and then, guys, that's going to have to come mid season, or that may come, a quarter of the way through the season. And listen, it's going to happen. It happens to the best of us, and that's okay, right? You may lose your motivation at times. It's not that you're not working. It's not that you don't have the discipline. You don't lack the discipline. You just may lack the why, right? And the why matters, okay? What motivates you? What gets you gets your gears grinding, and what gets you out of bed in the morning, right? That matters day in and day out. So I don't believe that motivation is something that just gets you started and you leave it behind. Like, don't forget why you're doing what you're doing. And in the other breath, I would say is that some of us go on motivation alone, but yet we don't have the will, and we may have the desire, but we don't have the sheer will to be disciplined enough to go out and do what it is that we're motivated by. So you gotta have both of them. And again, the discipline is your day-to-day work that you have set out to do and that you're consistently doing, and you can be very, very proud of that, of yourself, for continuing that grind day in and day out. But sometimes, again, motivation comes in different forms, and there's nothing wrong with being able to, pull off of different shelves to find that motivation that's necessary to be mentally, ready for the moment. All right, when it comes. So I hope that makes sense as well. And then the kind of third this or that here is really, I won't call your name. Actually, I'm Carlos, okay? Carlos out of Arizona, one of my online coaching guys, and we were talking a few weeks ago about just his leadership on his team this year as he prepares for his senior year in high school. And we talk about being liked versus being respected, and this is prevalent in the softball dugout, but I find it more of an issue, if you will, in the baseball dugouts at times. And here's the thing, man. If it depends on your goals, right? If your goal is to be the guy that everybody loves, and you're the guy that maybe you're the encourager strictly, and you just want to be liked, like, have at it, go for it, right? But if your goals are a little bit more, um, let's see, I guess a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what word I'm looking for here, but I guess I would say if you're more focused on getting the job done, and you're more results oriented for the team collectively, then it's very tough at times to always be liked. Therefore, being respected is the better of the two options there, right? Because if you, I would respect you more, Carlos, and the other Carloses of the world out there who maybe are in the same scenario where you're the captain of the team, and you need to lead. If you've been charged with the task to lead, then you need to lead, and your focus needs to be, hey, I'm going to demand the respect. I'm going to earn that respect. Some days I might not be liked, and that's okay, right? You're still setting out for your team. You've got goals for your guys, and you guys are working every day towards those. Otherwise, what are you doing? Okay. So again, think about it from that perspective. Again, I think from the ladies' side, having coached ladies for a while, I think some of the ladies, prefer to be liked more than maybe, respected in the dugout per se. And that's fine. However, what I would say though, even for you ladies out there in the softball, and again, this is not all softball players or all ladies in general, but I see it more consistently with women than I do men. And here's what I would say about that. Okay. That's a tall task. All right. And understand that everyone's not going to like you, and that's fine, right? That's okay. Even though everybody doesn't like you, you guys can still come together, or gals, or guys, whomever, you still come together for the purpose of a common goal, right? If there's 15, 25, 35, however many people on your roster, you can't get everybody to like you, and you definitely aren't going to get everybody to love you, right? And that is perfectly okay. But you bring a skill set to the table that benefits the team, so does your teammate. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there, neither would your teammate, right? So from that perspective, there's something to be said about a group of young women who can come together despite their differences, despite not liking or loving each other all together. They can still come together as a unit and get a job done for the betterment of the team. So that's what I would say on that front here as we get ready to take this next break. Be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again. Hey, listen, take out your notebook right here, because these are Demetrius's non-negotiables for you of year 2026. All right, let's start off with this first one, and this is specifically for the fellas. I commend the ladies on this, because a lot of times, especially the ones that I'm working with right now, they are very good about this. But the guys, man, you guys will go out there and work out and not be intentional about it. So number one non-negotiable is no working out without an intent. Okay. Be intentional about what you're doing. Don't just get in the gym and lift and just try to max out and end up, hurting yourself or doing something crazy, right? Make sure that we're being incredibly intentional about what we're doing. We've got sets. We've got a number of sets to hit, right? We've got weight limits. We've got things that we've set in place, to help us, achieve some of the goals that we may have, whether it's a weight goal or strength goal or what have you, right? And if you are somebody out there who maybe you don't have all of your crap together in that sense, then call somebody, text somebody, reach out to somebody, and make sure that you can get a sound game plan together so that when you get in the gym and when you go grind, you're doing it the right way. That's going to benefit your body. All right. Non-negotiable number two, you got to have it. Okay. You got to have this one in your tool belt, and that do not play the blame game. All right. Don't blame the umpires. Don't blame your coaches, and don't blame your parents. All right. Let me say that again. Players, no blaming in 2026. Coaches, umpires, or parents, they are not responsible solely for your success. They have a hand in it, right? But you're totally responsible for the journey that you're on, right? You have said, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. These are my desires. I have the will and motivation and discipline, hopefully, to go out and do that. Now you have resources that are being poured into you, or maybe that you're seeking, or what have you. But you own it. Own your journey. Own your processes that you're going through right now, regardless of where you are. All right. If you own it and you take accountability of it, I guarantee you, man, as you begin to progress and have more success throughout and achieve some of those goals, you're just going to take a lot more pride in it. And I can say that from experience, but also just personal experience at least, but also just being able to witness other people do that. So no blaming anybody else. You go own what you do, and if that's if you're at shortstop and you had an E6, 2, 3 of them this game, hey, don't blame the hop, right? Don't blame. I know the hop sometimes gets us, all right. But if you've made 2 or 3 this game, then that's really on you, right? Own that. Be okay with that. Get in the lab tomorrow, and don't make any excuses about it. All right. That's number two. Number three here. Speaking of getting back in the lab, is do not skip your fundamentals. Okay. I firmly believe in what we call everydays. Okay. If you've got some of those everyday activities at practice, maybe it's a short hop drill, maybe it's making sure that you for sure work on the tee. Whatever your everydays look like, do them every day. Don't take days off on those, especially during the season, because listen, man, the fundamentals is really the fundamentals are really what's going to propel you. I firmly believe that. And so if you will get after it, fundamentally speaking, all bets are off. Like, you can really take off and soar your game to the next level. All right. Number four, no ego before effort. Okay. If you make sure that you keep your ego in check and you get that completely out of the way, like don't even put your ego on a shelf. Like, maybe throw it behind the bookshelf, or throw it off the roof. I don't care, right? Lose the ego. Make sure that your effort is what takes you to where you're wanting to go. All right. I'm gonna talk about this with my buddy Kyle next week, and we'll have that conversation of effort and results, and how maybe they can coexist, and or maybe even how what's more important. Okay. And today I would say effort is more important than the result itself. Okay. Because the result is very difficult to obtain without the proper effort. Okay. So lose that ego, man. I don't give a crap about your stats. Okay. I don't care about your stats, especially if the team's losing or if the team lost, right? It's about the team first. And if you have a team first mentality and you're giving full effort, then the likelihood of the results being there are they're definitely higher than they are otherwise. Okay. So that's number four. Last one here is listen, man, don't let your social media be louder than your work ethic. Okay. So if listen, there's absolutely nothing wrong with social media. I'm a fan of it. I believe in it. If used properly and using it as a tool and a resource, but also just to be you, have fun, and share what you got going on. But it does not need to be bigger than you. Okay. So it needs to be a reflection, not an amplification. All right. Or an untrue or a falsehood or false look of who you really are. right? So, we don't want to see your hitting videos that you've compiled and make it seem like that you're grinding every single week when really you only take BP twice a month, okay? And you just clipped up the videos just to make them seem like, whatever, right? No, be in the lab, be a student of the game, and whatever you're putting on social media, that should be a fraction of what you really got going on behind the scenes. So those are my 5 non-negotiables, guys. Listen, when I come back here on the show after this final break, I'm going to give you my New Year challenge to you guys, and I hope that you will embody it, you will embrace it, and be totally cool to just live it out here in 2026. I'll be right back, guys. All right, guys, welcome back to the show one final time. Here's my New Year's challenge to you. I want you to write these 3 things down right here. All right. 1 habit to eliminate, 1 skill to obsess over, and 1 standard you will not compromise. All right. If you will focus on those 3 things right there, man, especially right now in this preseason stage that you're in, I guarantee you, man, you're going to set yourself up for some great success. Here's the reality, guys. December, January, February. Here's how it works every year. All right. December talks, January listens, and February tells the truth. That's the bottom line. When the lights turn on in February, the truth will be revealed. The question is, are you ready? Will you be ready? I think you will be. All right. Work your tails off, man. Work your tails off this preseason. Get after it. Grind it out. And you'll get some success out of 2026, man. I'm so proud of you guys. Thank you for the stories that you've been able to share with me over the course of 2025. But again, like I said, it's a new year and it's a grind. All right, it's a grind, man. Start it now. Don't delay it. Don't wait on it. Again, this is not about a bunch of New Year's resolutions. All right, this is mainly focused on making sure that you upgrade the standards and the habits that you've already set in place. All right, so listen, guys, let's wrap this show up like we always do. Please let everything you do be done in love, because at the end of the day, that is really what makes this beautiful world go round. 2026 has arrived, and I'm pumped for all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.